Welcome back to Real Estate 101. I'm your host, Joe Tercera, and today we're going to talk a little bit about RRSPs, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by Jeffrey Gregory of Desjardins Financial. Jeff, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Joe.
So Jeff, tell me, what is an RRSP?
An RRSP, its definition, it's a registered retirement savings plan. So as the pension reforms and so forth were happening within the government, it started back in the 50s. So it's been around for a while.
Okay.
It's a program where you put in money for your retirement. The government deems that a bit of an encouragement, so they will give you some tax money back. Putting in with pre-tax money, getting pre-tax money back. But in the end, it's really meant to be a retirement planning tool, not a tax planning tool. They go hand in hand. People get a little confused every so often.
So what's so special about them?
What an RSP is designed to do is to give an encouragement to the individual to put money away for their future years. So what happens is you're putting money away in your high tax bracket years at a time when you take it out in low tax bracket years. So if you're making $90,000 a year now, you may not be making $90,000 a year when you're 70, so you'll be paying less tax. It's a strategy used to defer income at a better tax rate for yourself. Get your refund when it's high, get it back when you're low.
Okay, so here's a question. How does having an RRSP affect, or does it affect, your pension?
It can. With the pension, you're only allowed to put away so much money a year into registered vehicles. 18%, around $22,000. So what happens is when you're putting money away into a pension, there's a number called a pension adjustment. Based on that number, then you can put in more into your RSPs, but it's very small. So people that are in civil jobs, government jobs, and so forth tend to have very high pension amounts.
Right.
As a result of that, they can't do a lot of RSPs. And a lot of times I discourage maybe the RSP as a savings tool because you've already got a lot in retirement. You don't want to have too much taxable income. So it's individualized, but a pension you're receiving can affect your RSP contribution.
Okay, so we know there's a deadline of March 1st. Why is this?
The rules associated with companies is they have to give your T4 statement to you by the end of February, the 28th of February or the 29th, depending on the leap year. So what the government decided is you get until March 1st to know how much you have to do for your RSPs for tax reasons at that point. So they give you a little bit of a window. 24-hour window depending on how efficient your employer is. What I suggest to a lot of people is take your last pay stub, December 31st, December 30th, whatever your last pay period is, and you can calculate it out pretty close to how much you're going to get as a refund from that. You know, get some qualified advice or people who can help you make that decision. And you won't need to necessarily wait on those long lines of March 1st. You can actually have a lot of this done way ahead of time.
Okay, so is an RRSP just for retirement?
No, actually it doesn't have to be. There are two other vehicles, I guess, within an RSP you can use them for. So the first one is the home buyer plan. You can take it out to $25,000 per individual in order to purchase your first home,
right,
or if you need to do upgrades because of disability reasons. Okay, be it somebody you're bringing in that needs some renovations or stuff. But again, it's per person, so if it's a couple or so forth, they have up to $50,000. Not a bad deal to get into the housing market.
Right.
If you're not too sure, it's on the first segment. And the other part is the lifelong learning plan. So a spouse and an individual can use up to $10,000 of their RSPs to go back to school. So if they've been laid off and they want to retool and use education as a means to enhance their careers, exactly, then the lifelong learning plan. So it's not just for retirement. It can be done to create some other advancements within people's lives as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the disability aspect because I think that's very interesting. I didn't know anything about that. How does that work?
As long as you qualify for the designation of disability, maybe getting the disability tax credit and so forth, then you make the application. It's really just a form and say that we're taking the money out as a means of to enhance the house for disability reasons, or somebody that we're bringing in to make it a little bit easier. Maybe you're putting in chair lifts or so forth. You've had some parents move in with you, or maybe you have children that need some advancements. And even not even just that, if something's happened to yourself, that happens, it's life. If you need to retool, you don't necessarily need to take tax dollars out. You can get the money borrowed from yourself tax-free with the disability option on a home buyer plan.
Okay, so can owners of RRSPs put in as much as they want?
No. No, actually what happens is the government's put a limit on it. They've done it as 18% of your income, up to 22 some odd thousand, 22.5.
So that's the cap?
That's the cap. Whatever is the lesser of the two.
Okay.
Okay. And again, it also depends on your pension adjustment that you referred to earlier. So if your pension adjustment, if you're allowed to put away $20,000 a year based on your income, you have a pension adjustment of $14,000, basic math, you can do 6. So they do limit it. They don't want you putting it all away because you still need to live, and they want tax money. They need tax money, so that's why they cap it.
So someone commits to putting money away and they get a refund. Is that it?
I hope not. What I would like to see is it's still a retirement savings plan. The money has to make money.
Right.
The great thing about an RSP is anything it makes within itself is really free, tax-free. You're not getting taxed that year. Eventually you will when you go to take it out, but you're in a much lower bracket. So now part 2 comes to it. Part 2, if you think of it like a coin, you're doing the heads part, then it's people like myself, advisors and planners that are setting it up to make money and have it grow tax deferred so that your retirement pot can be a lot healthier.
So how much does someone need to start an RRSP?
Depends on the institution. Some institutions will do things as low as $10 a month into an RSP. The average is maybe at least $50 a month or $500 as a lump sum. You can get around stuff like that, but $10 is the lowest. $10 is probably not a lot to get, but at least it's starting. Starting it is the trick to any of this. It doesn't have to be millions and thousands of dollars of commitments. It just has to be a commitment, and a lot of good can happen in people's lives.
All right, so let's say I want to buy an RRSP for someone. Can I do that?
You can buy a spousal RSP. So if you are married or common law or so forth, you can actually purchase it for your spouse, even if that person's not working. And it creates a tax deferral type of system later in retirement. You don't want all the money into one person. If you could split the money amongst 2 people when you go to retire, you pay a lot less taxes. So it is an effective strategy for income splitting.
Makes sense. But only for a spouse?
Only a spouse. You can't buy for your kids or stuff like that.
Okay. Now, is an RRSP for everybody?
No, I'm not going to say it's for everyone. If you make really low income, I don't recommend an RSP because you're not getting the advantage of the taxes. If you are making no income, don't do an RSP unless you're trying to save for home buyer stuff, but even then there are other vehicles. If your pensions are really high, it may not be for yourself. So there are individuals where an RSP may not be the best vehicle to look at creating retirement planning and other type of savings. And that's where the professional advice really comes in handy.
Okay, so what can someone invest into?
The topic of what you can invest into is more than the topic you can't invest into. So there are a lot of investment options for people to look at putting their RSPs into. They can go into everything from stocks, bonds, cash, GICs, mutual funds. I wish I could actually, it's easier for me to name the ones you can't, such as land, stuff like that. So it depends on the person's interest.
So you can select where you want to put your RSP?
Certainly, so you can. Just make sure that the advice you're getting on where to put it is kind of astute. But yeah, you could put the money into many different vehicles.
So for today's final question, I hear a lot of conflicting comments regarding RRSPs. What is your professional opinion on them?
An RSP is a very good vehicle. It's a very strong vehicle to help people achieve whatever retirement focus that they need, and it should strongly be considered. A lot of times when people are making negative comments and so forth to it, it's because they're usually misinformed.
Or they don't understand.
Yeah, or a lot of people get advice from the wrong sources. My professional opinion is it is a very, very good vehicle. It's just making sure that it's right for you and how to utilize it the best. So I do recommend that people have the conversation. It's too bad that a lot of people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their retirement. But with that, I do recommend everyone to strongly consider it and to review it frequently, at least every 6 months to once a year. You should be knowing what your money's doing. So I would recommend it, and those who have negative feelings towards RRSPs, they're allowed to their opinion. My professional opinion is it's a good vehicle.
All right, Jeff, good stuff. Thanks for coming on today's show.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me again.
So there you have it. You need an RRSP, and you definitely need to sit down with Jeff Gregory at Desjardins Financial. Give him a call. I'm Joe Tercera. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.